Welcome to the BJJ Mental Coach Podcast. I'm your host, Gustavo Dantas, and today we have Dan Uyemura. Got a quick intro here for you. Dan is the CEO and co-founder of PushPress, a gym management platform that helps over 3,000 fitness businesses streamline their operations from billing to member engagement. The company has grown over 70% year over year for a decade and is now valued at nearly $100 million. But Dan's story goes way beyond the numbers. It's a story of hitting rock bottom, losing jobs, and wonder if his best days were behind him. It's a story of rebuilding one choice at a time and finding his way back to authenticity and purpose. And somewhere along that journey, Dan found Jiu-Jitsu. Even though it came into his life later, the mats have been game-changing, not just for his fitness, but for his mindset, his leadership, and how he navigates the chaos of building a company. So today we'll talk about jiu-jitsu, the real challenges of entrepreneurship, artificial intelligence, and much more. And I hope you enjoy. So before we get into the interview, just a quick reminder here, if you maybe stopping by for the first time in our podcast on YouTube or any of the podcast platforms, make sure that you visit jujitsutribe.org or on Instagram at jujitsutribe. Is a 501c3 nonprofit organization I co-founded 15 years ago, helping inspire, impact, and improving lives of in impoverished communities, utilizing jiu-jitsu as a personal and social development tool. So we do our work in Brazil and United States. So if you want to learn more about what we do, become a supporter, go check it out. Also, we can visit the bjjmentalcoach.com to get some more information about performance, mindset, authenticity, everything that helps you to become the best version of yourself on and off the mat. We have the BJJ Mental Coach Masters community, so surf around the site, see if you can get some more information. And you can always follow me on Instagram. That's the platform that I use the most, at Gustavo Dantas BJJ. And I hope you enjoy the interview. Dan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited for this one.
Absolutely. So we just talk very quickly about your journey in martial arts. How did martial arts show up in your life? Did you play around with anything before jiu-jitsu?
No, actually, before I started jiu-jitsu, I have done zero combat sports or anything of the like. So it was a very new mindset and process for me.
Yeah. And what is the motivation behind it?
I'll be honest. I work for a software company, and I'm the founder of a software company we've somehow managed to get a bunch of jiu-jitsu and combat schools using us. We weren't trying to, but it happened. And because of that, we're like, we should learn more about this market. It looks like people are using us. And I'm of the mindset that you've got to understand your customers in order to serve them. So I just found my way into one of our clients, took a trial class, and just tried to understand what it was like to do jujitsu. Ironically, I put both my kids through jujitsu when they were really young. So I've been around, and I'm from Torrance, California, which is kind of like, I think, a mecca area, the South Bay of California, of jujitsu. So it's been around my life since I've been 20. I've just never tried it for myself. Anyways, the first day I took that class, I think something just clicked for me where I was like, this is pretty awesome, and I need to do this. And so I came home from that trial class. I was in San Francisco. I happened to be up there at Health Gracie. And then I came home and I signed up at the closest gym to my house that could, looked exciting to me. And that's been ever since I've been in it.
Beautiful. So let's talk about entrepreneurship. How did it show up in your life? How early did you get involved with this? Because sometimes people with entrepreneurial DNA, even when you're a kid, you're already playing around with ideas. And so how was
Mm.
it for you?
It's exactly that. But I didn't realize it, I think, until I was probably post-college. Looking back, I had a paper route, which was basically being an entrepreneur. Like I had to go collect, I had to, get the product, I had to fold it, I had to deliver it, and I had to collect money. I would always like pop up lemonade and brownie stands around the corner of my house. I would collect baseball cards like stocks. Like it wasn't about having one card, it was about having like 10 or 20. All through college, I tried to start companies out of things that I loved. It was always about things I loved. So I tried to open a pool hall by my college, etc. And yeah, I think once I graduated college, it just kept snowballing to a point where I started building these internet-based businesses.
And until you get to the point that you working on your company right now, the push press. So what did it lead you to that decision of going over, just going over different businesses and to get to a point that, you know what, I think I found my track here.
So it actually kind of was a reverse course. So I started a company in coming right out of college, which was kind of like a MySpace or a Friendster in 2001 or 2000. So it was like 7 years too early. That failed. I just started taking jobs doing coding, and I ended up becoming like a internet engineer in like 2002 through 2012 or 13. Around that time, 2012 to 2013, I got tired of just sitting at a desk and coding for 10 hours a day and then driving home. Like my life didn't feel like complete. So I was working for MySpace, ironically, at the time. I took my severance. They laid me off. I took the money that they gave me to lay me off, and I went and opened a gym with a couple friends. And when I opened a gym, the first thing I looked for was software because all I did was build software all day long. And I didn't like the choices that were available, and I just decided to build my own. And it kind of just led me full circle right back into being a software person again.
So how was your mindset back then when you opened this new business? And one of the things that we talk, I mean, the podcast is dedicated to entrepreneurs, business owners, high performers, people with jiu-jitsu in their lives. And we talk about transitions, that can be very difficult. Sometimes people taking a leap, or they're in a position in the company, or like you said, you're in just not happy where you were certain things. And it can be challenging to just pull that trigger and really go after. So how was your mindset back then? You were just kind of like, as you mentioned, done with it and say, you know what, I just have to do it. How was the mindset?
Yeah, when it came to opening the gym, it was kind of just like it was probably like a early midlife crisis thing. Like I'd been working for 10, 12 years, was very unhappy with it, where everything was going in my life, got laid off, and I probably was just like, hey man, I've just got this severance check and I have a couple other friends who are interested in opening a gym. Let's just do that. Um, Probably wasn't the most rational choice at the time, but it is what it is. Um, Looking back at that moment, it was like I was going through a lot of turmoil. I was going through a divorce. I lost my house. Like I had a house and I had two brand new kids. Like I was just going through a whole lot in my life. And I think it was almost like I don't want to play this game I've been playing that doesn't seem to be working. And I'm just going to try something new.
Right on. And how was dealing with some of the questionings that you have, as I mentioned, all of this tough transitions? How was for you? Was something that did you have support? You just kind of had to just grind through, just figure it out by yourself.
Oh yeah, I mean my only support was the friends I was opening the gym with and me. Um, I was kind of on my own, newly divorced, had my kids every other week or whatnot. And, it's just like you just got to figure it out. And I think that was probably the first moment in my life where I didn't have parental support. I didn't have someone paying my rent or my college. I was out on my own and I was separated from all support systems that I had. So it was probably the first time in my life that that happened.
In running the gym, what would you say was one of the biggest challenges that maybe you didn't expect to face?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I'm sure most people who run gyms will resonate with this. But what I didn't expect when I first opened the gym was everything I had to do that didn't entail running the gym. That, or it wasn't the stuff I wanted to do, right? I wanted to show up at the gym, work out, coach, do personal training, and then go home. But it turned out to be like social media and blogging and editing photos and dealing with members, customer support requests and trying to find why the janitor didn't show up on the Friday when they were supposed to. And the rower broke. So how do we fix, it's like all the stuff that you don't want to do become your job. And it really gets in the way of doing the stuff that you love to do. So,
Mhm.
and I'm sure everyone here, resonates with that.
And it was just a fitness gym. Just what kind of activities you guys offer?
It was actually a CrossFit gym that I did.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. When they had that boom of CrossFit, it was popular
Yeah.
everywhere.
2010. So I opened my first gym. Yeah. So, I mean, I've always been into the community. I think what attracted me to CrossFit was the community and the science
Mhm.
behind it. And ironically, like what's attracted me right into Jiu-Jitsu is the community and the science. And the science is different in Jiu-Jitsu, but I see it like obviously we all know here. It's more like math. It's more like logic and chess. Like that's really appealing to me as a programmer. And then the community aspect, like you've got a bunch of friends there that you train with, hold you accountable, and that you're trying to chase. That's fun.
I remember around that time that you mentioned, you had one affiliate that was located in Prescott and was a side that I must have been. I think maybe it was their HQ in Arizona, in Prescott, Arizona. I don't know if you're familiar, but it was massive. It was very big gym that I know that they used to have competition here. That's one of the first ones. I think the some of the owners that live in that area in Prescott, Arizona, but that
I
was
think
massive gym.
Glassman's wife, I think, used to live in Prescott. So there was something
Yes.
in Arizona. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a massive one. And when was the time that it said, you know what, I don't think I want to do this anymore, man.
The gym.
Yeah.
So, like from 2013 to 2019, I owned the gym. I had to take odd jobs to make my life work. And I was like building and trying to run push press as well. And honestly, like I thought push press would take off in a few years. And with like as with everything, it didn't. It took until about 2019 for us to be at a point where I could pay myself any kind of salary, where I realized like my time was better spent with push press focus than splitting time between a bunch of things. So push press being able to pay me a salary enough to live kind of was like a kill three birds with one stone. I don't have to do odd jobs anymore. I was able to, give the gym back to my other co-founders and focus on push press, which helped push press itself.
And what was, we talk about the challenge of the gym. What would you say was one of the biggest challenges that you didn't expect with push press?
The gym itself or with push
No,
press?
the push press as far as like starting,
Oh,
taking off, and the early growing pains.
uh, man, everything has been hard with push press. And I think we could talk about this later, but I think one of the things that really drew me into jiu-jitsu was like everything's hard in jiu-jitsu. And a lot of the similarities I see in the entrepreneurial world, I see in jiu-jitsu. So I remember when we were at $1 million in revenue. This is like 2019. I remember going to a business convention with a bunch of other software operators, and I remember sitting at the table thinking I was like totally big shot because I was making $1 million. And then I would ask the people, like they made us all introduce ourselves to people at the table. And there are people at my table making 40, 50, $70 million. And I remember thinking how little I was. And when I talk to like jujitsu practitioners, I think there's the same wave. Like, you know nothing, you think you know everything, and then you realize you know nothing again. And so, like, a lot of the $50 million operators were like, I don't know anything. Like, I'm just trying to figure this out. And I heard the same patterns in jujitsu, and I'm like, there's a lot of similarities between like trying to operate a business, forging out into the unknown of operating a business, and then like just stepping into the mats and not knowing what the hell is going on too. It's very similar.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many similarities. What would you say some of the, I don't know, the biggest benefit? There's so many, it's tough to point it out, but some of the biggest benefits you got from the jujitsu journey?
So mine's backwards because I did jujitsu after I'd been 13 years into running a business. And man, like we faced so many problems and just some of the biggest fires you can face, like, and we've dealt with them all. So for anything, it's backwards. It's like being on the mats, it made me learn really quickly. As a white belt, I'm not trying to do anything but survive. Like I had no ego about that. And there's some other white belts around me who are like trying to sweep and like learn arm bars and stuff. And for me, I'm just very pragmatic of I just need to last 5 minutes without getting tapped or getting tapped three times instead of five or whatever it might be, depending on who I'm rolling with. Business taught me that because the only thing you need to do in the beginning of business until you're pretty stable and you figured out some repeatable motion is you just can't die, you know? So it's the other way around. I feel like business actually prepared me a lot for jujitsu. It, I could see this being really tough for somebody who has no context of anything and just walking in the mats and just
Hmm.
getting destroyed every day and not even knowing what to do about it. But that was my first 9 years of business in the real business life, anyways. So it's like I was already prepared for a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. The especially the first 6 months of jujitsu can be make it or break it for a lot of people.
Hmm.
And even the it's kind of like the beginning of the entrepreneurship to make it or break it for a lot of people. And yeah, because sometimes people see or like, well, I think I can do that, or I can do that. And as soon as the things start like, oh, this is a lot more different than
Yeah. Yeah, because
than
you watch
expected.
someone else, you watch someone else like go through this sequence of, like side control, knee slide, mount, and then, getting you into an arm bar, and you're like, that looked pretty easy. I'm gonna try that. And you realize it's really like 14 steps with like really fluid things that have to set up each step. And it's not just the arm bar, it's like all the things in between it. And business is the same. It's like you can't just land a product and just start making money. You've got to figure out so many motions that make it work that it looks easy when you watch a business that's succeeding do it, but to figure out every motion is really hard.
Yeah, it's interesting when we have, for example, have like the kids class, right? And you have some parents that never train, but they watch enough that they think that they know.
Yeah.
Be like, come on, get out of the mound. You do the hipscape every day. Come on. And then until they're like, hey, I think you should really try the class. And and then
Yeah.
showing them like, come on, the hipscape, you've seen
Just
it.
do that hip.
You've
Is
come
just
up so
stand
many
up.
times. Yeah, just get out of there. So it's pretty funny when a lot of them change. The ones that talk the most are the ones that don't train, of course, to
Yeah.
understand the frustration of being stuck on something like, well, it's not that simple. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Especially yeah, when you're rolling, and then again, it's kind of similar to business. Like when you're rolling with somebody who doesn't want you to escape, or when you're competing in business against like markets that don't care about you or competitors that are gunning for you, it's like you have to do it all despite that, right?
Yeah. And did you play any sports growing up?
I played baseball and basketball growing up,
Oh,
but yeah, now
in
that
what
I'm
part?
50
Where
years
did you
old,
grow up at?
I grew up in the Bay Area, a city called
Okay.
Fremont.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So all just no individual sport per se until that point, right?
Yeah, until I was 50, literally.
Yeah, that's the thing with jiu-jitsu individual sports. There's I think of course there's the value of the group sport, but the individual one to be like, that's on you, brother.
Yeah.
You can blame the referee. Sure, mistakes can happen, but at the end of the day, it's you. And then entrepreneurship, if you're one of the main people there, I mean, it's up to you. You're the one got to take the responsibility, which is not easy, but it's part of the deal. What other habits you have besides physically speaking to jiu-jitsu? Any other habit that you have or any activity that you do?
I mean, I kind of split my life up among three buckets. It would be my family, uh, the thing I'm into, which right now is jujitsu,
Hmm.
and work. And for me, work is trying to help and satisfy the needs of all of our clients who are gym owners. So I'm lucky in the sense that jujitsu mostly my interests always fall around the gym, generally
Hmm.
speaking. So it's like I spend time in the gym, I work with gyms, and then I have family time. And that's pretty much all I have energy and time for, to be honest. There's not a whole lot more.
I hear you. And what did you say? It's a one habit that has helped you over the years, that helped you in everything in your life, entrepreneurship, jujitsu, simple. Uh, what comes to your mind?
So, I mean, there's two things that I usually index on when I evaluate myself and when I evaluate others in the spaces that I play. And the first one's curiosity, and the second one is resilience.
Hmm.
Curiosity is a growth trait, and resilience is a survival trait, right? So I think there's a dangerous combination when someone is curious and resilient. Uh, to put it into context, like right now in jiu-jitsu, I am only resilient. I'm not curious. Like I'm not trying to go from, being in bottom side control to controlling an arm and trying to take someone's arm bar. I'm not trying to do any of that yet. There's no curiosity. I am literally just trying to be resilient. But once I've built up enough, I think, understanding of how to survive, then I will start to be curious of like, let me try this and see what happens. I think one without the other is not good. So I wouldn't profess somebody to be only resilient and not curious, even though I'm doing that to myself, because there's no growth. Like the growth is very slow. But I think I've come to realize in jujitsu the growth can be slow anyway, so I might as well focus on one thing before I go to the next.
So you're also a speaker, right? A keynote speaker, and talk about different topics in the industry. What is one topic for everyone who's listening at home that are into entrepreneurship? What is a topic that you're passionate to share about?
Currently, I'm talking a lot about AI, but I don't know if we need to dig into that here. I think one of the bigger topics that I try and focus on these things called meta skills, and meta skills are things where like if you learn them, they can apply in jiu-jitsu or your education or business. And I think one meta skill that I talk a lot about is about engineering outcomes and creating flywheels. So basically, like you want to set things up so you think of, and we can apply this directly to jiu-jitsu if you want, it'll make sense. But like engineering outcomes, like you want to approach your day on the mat with an intent. Like what is the outcome I want to get? What am I trying to do? And instead of just going out there and flopping around doing things, you're like, I'm working towards this outcome I'm trying to get. Creating flywheels would be in business, it's like you're setting up your marketing efforts so that your sales efforts get easier. You're setting up your sales efforts so that your onboarding efforts get easier. You're setting up your onboarding efforts so the customer finds value in the short to midterm easier, which sets up your referral pattern, which sets up your marketing, which sets up your sales, right? And it just makes everything easier as you keep making each one better. And jiu-jitsu is the same. Like if you get good at stand-up wrestling, then you could start to get good at, like passing guard. And once you're good at passing guard, you can get good at pinning and controlling, right? And it's like once you get good at one, you focus on the next, and then eventually it'll come all the way back out like, okay, someone just wrestled up on you, now you're standing up again. So like we're gonna wrestle again. So it's like you're building these flywheels where like you're good in every position, and every position makes the next position better.
Nice. And it definitely caught my attention the word intention because I was in Texas last week doing a seminar, and a word that I use more and more is the word intention in jiu-jitsu. I read a book called A New Earth. Is I just blanked right now. The guy from Power of Now. I totally I can't believe I forgot his name.
I'm looking
But
it up right now.
yeah,
Eckhart Tolle.
Eckhart Tolle. Yeah. So that was the biggest takeaway that I got from that book. I really enjoyed that book about intention, just looking in everything in jujitsu and competition, especially competition, having the intention of what you planning to do on because when you start talking about high level in jiu-jitsu or competition, uh, the best guys in the business, they're extremely intentional. They kind of like what they're doing, what they're anticipating in their moves. And sometimes you have someone that is not as intentional and they get into a situation, just a split second of a hesitation, and someone already know what they're going, start that snowball effect. So
Hmm.
intention, it's a big word that I do my best to implement more and more. And let's talk a little bit about the AI. You said that that's something that you've been spending more time. So yeah, what would you have to share regarding AI?
Oh, huge topic. I mean, we can go a million different ways. The bottom line is we're at the beginning wave. I've lived through multiple I guess industrial or architectural shifts in the world that created a lot of wealth, changed a lot of things. Internet's one. I actually am old enough to have lived through personal computers becoming a thing. When I was a kid, people didn't even have computers in their homes. Like it just wasn't affordable. Mobile is another one, and now AI. These are like the four big technological shifts in the last 50 years. And I think AI is going to dwarf all of them. Probably the amount of change AI is going to create is probably more than all of them combined. And where we can go from this, it's a huge topic, but I would say no matter what, as a gym owner, you should lean into the fact that AI can make you more scalable and make you more repeatable, which are two important factors in business, repeatability and scalability. And on top of that, it can make your services more personalized if used correctly. It is hard for every single person to be able to use AI to these types of scale, but I think that's where PushPress's role in this comes in because we have data, we have touch points, we have signals that can allow AI to actually take over some of this work and get it done. But in the meantime, I would say everybody should be playing with AI with a tremendous amount of curiosity and really try to like don't just try and figure it out yourself. Ask AI what to do. Ask AI what it can do. Look on the web. Try and talk to other people because the amount of leverage it can create for you today is massive. And the amount of leverage that it will create for you in the future as it all starts to come together, because we're in the very beginning, is going to be, we're going to look back on like yesterday and go like, I don't even know how I operated a gym that way in a few years.
What are some of your favorite tools? I know that now they have so many, but for someone that maybe is getting into AI, maybe they're new, they're just kind of baby steps. What are some of the tools that you would you
Yeah.
recommend?
I'm going to say this with a preface that by the time this comes out, and definitely by the time anyone listens to this could be completely dated and like throw away
True,
because everything's moving so fast.
true.
A month ago, I was pretty much an exclusive ChatGPT OpenAI user.
Hmm.
Today, I'm a 100% Claude user.
That's what I've been
Uh,
using too.
yeah, Claude Cowork is phenomenal. I don't know if you use Cowork yet.
No.
So Cowork is good in organizations because like I can connect it to my Slack, I can connect it to my messaging, I can connect it to Notion, I can connect it to my bug tickets and my code base and all this stuff, and I can start to ask it questions, and it can piece it all together from these different data sources and give me one thing back. So for instance, like in the respect of what I'm doing, I can say like, what are the 10 most impactful bugs that PushPress has? Tell me which customers are pissed off about it and make sure the customers are over $50,000 a month in revenue because I want to, help the big customers first. And then stack rank it based on how hard you think it'll be to fix. And it'll look at the code base and figure out how hard. It'll look at our tickets. It'll look at our intercom, customer support
Wow.
system. It'll piece it all together and it'll say like, here's the 10 most important things you should focus on and why. And then here's the, 50 biggest customers who have been complaining about these 10 things so you can talk to them and find out more information. And it could do that in like 3 minutes, right?
Nice.
Um, so that's where like the power of AI is going to be marrying data together. And I think that's why like a push press is really going to be really good for this for gyms because we are going to become almost a unified data source for all of the things you need. So we don't have to like piece it together from different points. We have a lot of it already.
Hmm. Any other one besides Claude that you play around with?
This is going to be majorly nerdy and technical, which I don't suggest a lot of people get into, but I've been marrying Claude with a tool called Obsidian, which is basically like a markdown file generator. This is going to be too nerdy. I don't even know if we should talk about this, but
Mm.
it basically like I've created automations within Claude connects with Obsidian. It creates automations that basically manage my day. They check all my, like my Slacks, my calendar, my email, all the things that are going on. Like for instance, it prepped me for this podcast because it said you have a podcast at 9. Like it gives me a report at 4 in the morning. Here's who's leading it. I looked them up on the internet. Here's what they're about. Here, I found that he had sent over a bunch of questions. Here's the ones you should prepare for. You're already ready for these ones because I already know. It's like it just prepared the whole thing for me, and I just kind of morning briefed my way through it. Right. Um, that's gonna be. I've just barely started using that a week ago, and I think it's probably gonna be. It's my command center for how I work now. Like I work
Nice.
out of that all day long.
So, what would you say is the difference? Some of the main difference. I don't know if AI is part of that of PushPress and other companies, software companies, but related to especially to the jiu-jitsu crowd, right? That's something that I grew up in Brazil. I came to the US in 1999. So I was in Vegas. When I moved to Vegas, there's only two academies in
Hmm.
Vegas. In Nevada, there's two, 98, 99. And I remember just living this whole change of the traditional martial art was already ahead, like as far as marketing to charging, and we brought the culture from Brazil that was not a thing, right? So a lot of the Brazilians that came here, you just pay cash. You didn't have like agreements or auto pays or softwares,
Hmm.
whatever. So when I was in Vegas, my friend John Lewis, he was kind of getting introduced to that. So that's kind of like about the first time I noticed. So like, oh, you do auto pay. So right now it's like a no brainer, but back then it was like,
Yeah.
okay, especially for jujitsu business. And then I moved to Arizona in 2000, and then said like, hey, I learned that they have this. So I started to like little by little implementing things, and I've been maybe for the past 26, 27 years, maybe I have used maybe four or five. different companies. So based on the jiu-jitsu market, what do you feel that push press like brings extra to the table?
I think the number one thing I will always say is this company is run by people who are fanatical about owning gyms because it started with me as a gym owner and my actually one of my co-founders. I have two other co-founders at PushPress. One was my co-founder at my first gym, and the other one was one of the first clients at my first gym who was one of my friends in college. So it's like the DNA of this company is we are not the problem I found, and the reason I started building my own software is because I found when I opened a gym, everyone I talked to didn't know what it was like to run a gym at all. Like I felt like I was talking to some college kid who was just trying to sell me to make money. And so that is 16 years later, 13 years later, that's still in our DNA, and it forever will be in our DNA. Most of the companies that we run up against end up selling to private equity, which is, for the long and short of it, it's like an investor group who just wants to make money, who does not care about anything other than like it's just about the financial results first, and however you can get the financial results, that's all that matters. Um, we've been fanatical about the concept that you make money by serving your customers well, and you serve them well to the point that they're willing to pay you money, right? That's literally what money is for. It's like someone gives you value, you give them money, right? So on that context and on as that being a kind of a primary concept that we built the business around, the idea here is like I will never sell the company to somebody who's going to rip off our clients if we ever have to sell or if I, like I can't do this forever. So if this company, I want this to be a 100-year company. And so if we ever sell it, I'm going to pick who we sell it to very stringently. Maybe we sell it to the customers. I don't know. But like no matter what, that is in our DNA and that will persist in our DNA. And I think that core thing is going to be that's going to ripple out into everything, right? Like if I happen to be in Arizona and your gym's nearby, I will come to your gym and roll with you, and like we'll just talk. Like I don't have to sell you, but I'll learn from you. I'll learn. I'll watch. And I don't think that kind of DNA is in many other companies that in the world, to be honest, but like especially the ones that we run up against.
Yeah. What would you say that maybe it's something a feature that Push Press has that especially BJJ academies or feedback that you got like, oh man, I really like this or that specific thing, or what is something that really
Yeah.
you hear consistently about it?
So we're honestly like a year into the martial arts space as a focus. In that year, we've launched belt tracking, and I'll be honest, I think the initial launch of belt tracking sucked. Right? We didn't understand the space well enough. We got deeper in, we understand it, we're working on making it better. But one thing that we actually found when we launched it and we started paying attention better to the martial arts space is onboarding your new your belt tracking system's hard because you have 500 members, 200 of them you might not have talked to in a while. You're not really sure how, it's like it's really hazy like if you're migrating in and trying to get set up everyone's belts at the same time. So we took all that, we sat down and thought about it, and we just like last week launched this. We call it Rank Request, which is like a system so you as an owner can crowdsource it. You send it out to all your members and say, hey, I want to make sure you're ranked correctly. Can you put in your belt color and like approximate how many classes, or if you know, enter this information. And then what I learned being a practitioner now is like nobody really knows how many class, it's like it all gets hazy pretty quick. But when you watch me, I'm a white belt. Like you just know, like, oh, he's probably been doing this for 6 months or 12 months or something. Like a good instructor knows, kind of. So it's harder to go through a list of 500 people and go like, probably a blue, probably a purple, probably a brown, like that, versus looking at a list and just scanning it and be like, that's bull. There's no way this person's a brown. I'm gonna have to like go and watch them and talk to them. These ones are all good. This person probably shouldn't be a blue. They should probably be a purple. Like, let me watch them too. So that crowdsourced onboarding and like rank self-reporting actually became this in the last week. Like people have been using it like crazy, and we're watching people like getting hundreds of like belts coming in of people because the practitioner wants their belt to be correct, right? So it's like all of the incentive is on me as the gym member to say like I'm a blue and I'm proudly a blue, and then the owner can just verify it, and it looks like it's saving people a ton of time, and we're pretty happy about that one. These are kind of this is an example of I haven't seen anyone else do this, and I'm kind of proud of the team that did it because we had no one to copy. We just looked at the problem, and knowing the gym space and knowing how gym owners think and knowing what members think, you can put it all together and build something that like actually works.
Right on. So let's change a little bit gears here.
Okay.
Let's talk about piece of advice. I want you to share something that a piece of advice that someone doesn't have to be jujitsu related, could be business, anything that comes to your mind. Sometimes could it be family, friends. What what do you think?
Oh man, very broad piece of advice. Let's center it around gym businesses.
Hmm.
Um, since since that's more centered to the topic. I think engineering outcomes is one I always talk about, and I think it's just a mindset that you have to have if you want to run a successful business.
Okay.
At the end of the day, you have to know where you want to get. It's just, again, it's like jujitsu. Like if you show up to class and you just do things, you're not going to get better. But if you know you're working on your half guard, then you're going to put yourself in half guard and you're going to work on it. Same thing with business. Like it's okay not to be good at something. It's not okay to avoid it in business because you have to do all of it. Um, I think another big piece of like a meta skill advice I give gym owners is you have to separate what you know from what your new clients know. Because as a black belt in jiu-jitsu, you've been around bloody noses and broken bones and separated ligaments and dirty mats and sweat in the eye. You've been around so much stuff that it's not a big deal to you. But when like a new dad comes in who's an accountant and he can pay the bills, he'll pay $400 a month if you charge him it because he makes the money, but he's not prepared for like someone's sweat dripping in his eye
True.
or like your philosophy is like you need to be a hard ass mofo in order to be in this gym, but he just wants to be able to roll with his kid. You know what I mean? It's like you've got to put yourself in the shoes of the client and really know who you want as a client. Like it's okay to work as a competitive gym who's putting people in competitions if that is what you want to do, but you can't mix it and be like, I want to do a competitive gym, but I also need Bob the accountant to come in and feel comfortable and pay the bills too. You have to choose, engineer those outcomes, and try to build everything around who you're selling to.
Yeah, dude, this is a great point. Uh, I don't know if are you familiar with Fabio Gurgel, one of the leaders of Alliance? So
Oh yeah,
he's in yeah. So he's in he's based in Brazil
like
and
Boise. Oh,
well he got well he does have his one of the co-founders is there. He opened a
oh
school
okay.
there, but he basically he lives in Brazil now. He does a lot of the information that people talk here in US or talking about gyms or scaling all the kind of stuff he's bringing to Brazil, so he's doing a good job of like getting more professional because I feel that yeah, Brazil exported came to the world, but let's talk about US, and it got here and a lot of people learned that you have to be way more professional than what we were in Brazil. Now people are taking that information back to Brazil,
Mm,
and I love what he said about because I lived the intense revolution of jiu-jitsu in the 90s in Brazil, and he used a term that is great, which is if you have trained jiu-jitsu in the 90s and you still train to this day, you're part of a select group called the survivors because you to go to a school is just they're not concerned about the client or the experience. It's just who's tough, who's going to stay here, and
yeah.
if you're not tough, get out of here. You know what I mean?
I've heard some stories about like, yeah, the old school of jiu-jitsu. And it's basically like you've got to be able to survive, yeah, literally
Yeah.
survive, right? Like I heard a lot of stuff because again, I'm from Torrance and I had a lot of friends back then who dig and it would be there would be a lot of like I'm showing up at your school and I'm challenging somebody to see if this
Yeah.
even works. Like that meant I mean, it was different then. Like it was just a different world then.
Absolutely. Yes. And now I see like in the interesting thing in Brazil, I mean, of course it's so much bigger than here in US amount of practitioners or school, whatever, but still have a lot of people who are resistant to those changes. They call like the roots or the Nutella generation, whatever that they
Yeah.
call. But um, but now for sure, if that's the route you want to go, your business will be limited. That's so much that you can do, and it's just scaring people away. That is for sure. And when I came to the US, that was the only mentality that I had. I mean, that's how you run the class. There's no intro class. It's just like here's the gi, here's a arm bar and a sweep here, and let's go. Just learn. Just go in the ocean, just swim. You
Yeah.
know. So it has been a big evolution of changing things and adapting, seeing like, oh wow. For example, a big one in Brazil, people still talk about this was the gauntlet when you get promoted. You get people and then you just get whipped with the belt. So that was a huge thing in Brazil. That was a thing, right? So we come to the US, so it's a thing. It's part of the culture. It's just like that's what I saw. And I remember this is probably like mid 2000s when I finally had my click that there was a guy watching the class and his eyes was just like big. I never saw the guy again. Of course, the dude is sitting like, dude, I have my family. I'm gonna come here and get whipped you out of your mind, So I started to like, all right, guys, from now on. So some people still defend. I think that is like, man, it's an absurd. It's not a good strategy at all, especially if you're gonna scare people away, and especially the internet world that everyone knows what's going on. Someone's filming something, and so I'm glad
Yeah.
that I stopped using that a long time ago.
It's really like, to be fair, it is completely the direction you want to go. Like, you just have to understand, if you're choosing that direction, you have to attract
Oh yeah,
like hardcore killer competitors who are willing to do that. And your pool is just smaller, and therefore you can't compete with this. You have to be very intentional about what you do. I actually like, I feel like what I see happening in jiu-jitsu, I went through with CrossFit, where it was like people are just coming in the doors. I don't have to do any marketing. This is crazy. And then three times more gyms open up in your area and it gets harder again. Like this,
mm,
like that's going to naturally happen. It is already happening. And so the survival of the fittest will just warrant like whatever satisfies the market demand the best. And I don't think we live in a world where everyone wants to get whipped and get beat up and not understand the why of what's happening until they're a purple belt or something. Like, just put in 3 years. And so because of that, I would say it's probably better to cater to somebody who's softer, who you're trying to harden up, versus have this hard mentality of like, you sink or swim, you're in the ocean. I don't think that's going to work, but it definitely can for some people, you know?
yeah. It's tough as it is. I was talking to one of my instructors saying that, man, it's tough as it is to nowadays. People are so busy, right? There's so many distractions, phone, and people are busy, family and stuff. So for someone to really make a commitment to add, I would say twice or three times a week jujitsu in their routine it's really a big challenge for some people or not. For some people are not used to it. Just I'm just curious to be able to really consistently keep coming. The training is not easy because first is, yes, it's very frustrating. So for some people that is going to be a factor. And again, it just got so much going on. I'm like, ah, man, I'm busy. So people need to really enjoy jiu-jitsu, enjoy the community, the place that they're at. They feel comfortable, they make friends because
Mhm.
most people, I feel that they come in with the idea, oh yeah, I want to learn how to defend myself, I want to develop a skill, I want to get a better shape. That's the most common answer that I get. But as you start to dig in, and eventually people stay because of the mental, emotional, and the community aspect, man. They
Community.
see that they get so much more than just learning how
Yeah.
to defend themselves.
Yeah. People come in for like, I kind of relate it to Michelin star restaurants, both CrossFit and Jiu-Jitsu type gyms, community gyms. You come in for the food because you heard the food's good, and you come back because the waiter knew your name, the maitre d like already knew what type of wine you liked. You know what I mean? Like,
The
it's the
experience, yeah.
service, the experience, the community is why people stay in our gyms. So, but they don't know that. They come in for the
Yeah,
self-defense.
yeah.
The one thing I think jujitsu has like majorly going for it that I think you guys already understand is the kid factor, because like in the CrossFit gym space, you're pulling a parent away from the kid for them to go do their workout, and that creates like additional stress because like Johnny's got to be at basketball practice, then I'm going to try and work in, and then after that I got to pick them up, that kind of stress. But in jujitsu, the magic is you bring the kids in first, and then you're like, well, why don't you train? Just spend an extra half hour or hour and do your training while Johnny's wrapping up or whatever, and you can get like 3 for 1, and it
So
actually makes their lives easier. You know what I mean? That's actually kind of a cool thing.
yeah. So what would you say it's if you have, of course, this is not no regrets or anything like that, but if you have to go back when you started that journey of push press, if you could talk with your younger version, what one piece of advice you to tell them?
So the God honest piece of advice I'd probably tell them is don't do it. First of all, uh, it was literally like thousands of times harder than I thought it would be. Um, so don't do it. If I was dead set on doing it, I just would level set on the fact that it's going to be very hard. You're going to have dark days all the time, and just try to normalize that. Learn, like just be normal with things sucking for a very long time. And I'm at the point now where I've just come to the realization that it's never not going to suck. Every day is just as hard or harder than yesterday, even at the point we're at today. Like I think people look at like where we are and they're like, oh, it must be so easy. No, it's just like bigger, different problems is what it is. So I would just normalize that really quickly. Like if you're not willing to do all this work and be in a lot of suck for a lot of like decades, just work for somebody and be unhappy with that life too. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter, right? So,
True.
yeah.
So as far as reading, is that something that you have the habit to, reading, consuming audiobooks and stuff like that?
This is very an interesting topic for me. Like I am like rabid learner. I don't have the patience or the time to actually read a whole book.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you can see them. I have like crazy amount of books back there. Haven't read a single one. Have picked all of them up and read like portions of them. Or it's inspired me to like find the cliff notes or listen to them on a podcast or whatever. But
Gotcha.
I mean, it's probably half the books I haven't even like opened up and read a paragraph out of. So
Mm-hmm.
my wife makes a joke that like I collect books that I don't read, but I'm somehow still absorbing the concepts and the ideas behind them.
So with that said, what would you say? I know that sometimes different topics, different moments in your life, but what was one of the most impactful of game changing? Like you said, even the book that you didn't read, but you research, and because of that,
Mhm.
spark some more knowledge. What is something that comes to your mind?
Um, so to tell you the story, I'll give you a quick, really quick, just like anecdote. During COVID, I started doing ultra marathons because we couldn't go to the gym, kinda. And because I was at the stretch of push press where it was starting to grow, and I needed to do some type of physical fitness where I could learn while I was doing it. Like CrossFit and Jiu-Jitsu, you can't do nothing else but do the
Yeah.
thing. Ultra marathons and like long distance running, I was able to listen to podcasts, listen to books, think about my business while I was running. During that time, I found this podcast. It was by Naval, who's a venture capitalist turned philosopher, and his podcast slash book is called How to Get Rich Without Being Lucky. And I listened to that whole thing on a 3 hour run once. It was like a 15-mile run. I listened to the whole thing just straight shot. That changed my life. I still go back and listen to it once a year. If you haven't listened to it, listen to it. It's like a 3 hour
Can you repeat the
podcast.
name again?
How to Get Rich Without Being Lucky. And he says in the podcast itself, it's on Spotify, it's free. Um, the real title is How to Be Wealthy Without Being Lucky, but he just realized nobody would listen to it if it wasn't how to get rich, like that word rich, like people are
Yeah.
attracted to. So he basically just gives you like it was a tweet storm that he wrote. So it's like 100 tweets that he unpacks every single one. And all of them, every single tweet is a one of the framework components of how to become a wealthy person. And he just like it's just a sequential layered like I think there's like two or three different like big chunks of it, and then he writes a whole bunch of tweets in between them and fills it in. It's about like knowledge accumulation, specific skills, capital, like leverage creation, like all these different like topics of wealth creation. That's changed my life because it was so much information packed into one short comprehensible understandable thing that applies to everybody. So everyone who asks me that question, I tell them listen to that before you do anything else.
Right on. I like it.
Yeah.
And so, what are you currently excited about with Push Press? What is going on?
Super excited about moving into combat sports. Like I'm very excited about that personally because it's my new thing. Um, AI, I think is like AI has the ability to be leveraged into gym owners. I think gym owners and all small business owners are going to benefit the most from AI. And that's because like, I don't know, take some venture capital guy, take some finance guy, take someone who's a lawyer, right? They're already very well skilled in the areas that they're in that I think the leverage delta that it creates is smaller. But for a gym owner who has to learn how to do accounting and bookkeeping and tax prep and HR stuff and legal things and like all of this stuff that they don't want to do that they're not good at, that drains their energy and time. AI is actually really good at all those things. So
Hmm.
I think AI is positioned to like just put you back on the floor more and make you more effective with your people, which is what you want to do anyways, and then take the burden away from all of these side quests that business make you do that you don't want to do. And so I'm super excited like to start really digging into all that stuff and like just getting gym owners back to what they love doing.
Right on. And what about with your jiu-jitsu journey? Do you feel that at some point would you try a competition?
100%. I am going to for sure. I was
Yeah.
petrified. I'm a very competitive person. I
Hmm.
actually stopped doing, I involuntarily stopped doing sports as a kid because I got kicked out of too many leagues, too many games for like, if I struck out with a guy on, if I struck out, I would throw a bat. If I missed a free throw with the game on the line, I would throw the ball across the stadium. Like I couldn't handle failure as a kid. And so I've
Hmm.
been petrified to compete because now I'm confronting like I'm going to lose. Like there's no way
Yeah.
you can be undefeated in jiu-jitsu, right? But I also think the first few months on the mat taught me like you're going to lose. Like in fact that's
Hmm.
nothing all you do is lose. So I'm definitely entering a competition. I'm definitely going into it wanting to win, but I this will be my test if I can give myself the grace to be a gracious loser and be a good loser, which honestly, I used to watch the UFC and go like, I don't know how these guys can literally beat the hell out of each other and then give each other a hug after. It makes no sense to me. Like the only way I could go about it is literally want to kill them. But now that I've been on the mats, I'm like, there's a respect of like we're both trying to win, but that doesn't mean you have to lose type of thing. You know what I mean? And I really, really like that. And I think I'm excited for a competition.
Yeah. I'd say that sometimes people ask me about lessons of not just competing, but jujitsu, but kind of they go together because the reality is every day in class you are competing with your training partner. You're trying to do your moves, they're trying to do their moves.
Yeah.
So we are competing to a certain level. But I think the biggest lesson that one of the biggest lessons I got early in as a teenager, it was that like especially in jiu-jitsu, you don't always get what you want at the time that you want, the way you want, just because you want it. Another person is also putting the time and they're also trying to win. And many of them have goals
Yeah.
and dreams as well. And that, man, just spreads to every area of your life in business. And you're not push press is not the only company doing this process. You have other companies doing the same and
Yeah.
putting their time and making, so yeah, we don't get the submission that you want, the time that you want, just because you want it. So that really helped me to kind of, especially losing a lot of beginning. It was just kind of like, all right, dude, calm down. First of all, calm down, and and then I think it helped me. I know I wish I could say that the friends of mine that coming up can count on their hand how many times they lost, right? So I wish I could say that, but the fact that I lost a lot, it made me appreciate more when I started to do better. I was like, nice, about time, man. I'm trying, I've been
Yeah.
putting the time here and it's finally happening. So now eh, my vision about competition has evolved a lot. I've been studying about the kind of the mental aspect for the past 15 years and even how I inspire or suggest students why to compete, which is a huge thing, or like why you even want to compete. I just talk with them a lot about and I see as jiu-jitsu is everyone that is listening here, I've been training long enough that jiu-jitsu is an incredible personal and social development tool, no doubt about it. Now, you don't have to compete to get the benefits of it. This is fact. If you never compete, you're still going to have all the benefits and feel more confident. You're going to develop a skill and everything that comes with training jiu-jitsu. However, if you want to amplify the power of this tool, competition under pressure situations, it definitely going to add more to it because you're going to do everything that you already do at the school, but now there's expectation. There's people watching. There's a referee. There's a clock,
Yep.
and so the mental and the emotional aspect, it's man, it's amplified like crazy. I have some people who I had on a podcast before, guys that competed, took a break for a long time competing, black belts, and I talked to them about this, and he said, and then eventually I got a message, dude, actually that thing got me back on in competition because I said for some people that have trained jiu-jitsu, there's some guys 15, 20 years or whatever. And if you think, and when I ask them and anyone to listen at home that you've been in a jiu-jitsu journey and have competed a lot for a long time, if you think about that journey, like, okay, you competed, maybe high level or not, but you have competed. Would you have the same amount of growth, especially mental and emotional growth, that if you have never participated in tournaments? And all of them, they go like, no way,
Yeah.
because just the preparation, the everything that goes into dealing with the anxieties, the fears, the success, the failures, being able to add that on top of training, that is an incredible amplifier for jiu-jitsu. So that's why now it's my motivation to still compete is that internal battle. And for my students too, it's about, man, authenticity is the key word. The goal is just try to be the person that you are in the academy on a competition, which is not always easy. Okay, to be able to transfer all that under pressure. That's why I started studying this. But if you can do that, that is a massive, massive win, and consequently better chances of you performing well, and hopefully win. It would be great. But at the end of the day, all you can really ask for is do the best you can with what I have right now. I'm going to compete right now. This is all I got. Maybe next week I have more, but now this is all I got. And if you're able to do that and being able to maintain that mental emotional control, man, it's a priceless experience.
Yeah. You got me even more hyped for it. I mean, I could say probably two things to this because I haven't competed yet. But one, I think that it's just it's tried and true, and it's not anything that's crazy to say that when you put a date on a calendar, you're
Mhm.
whatever it is, it could be a board meeting, it could be an investor update, it could be a 5K or a 10K, it could be a jiu-jitsu competition. But if you put a date on a calendar that doesn't cannot move, the way you approach every day that leads up to it is completely
Absolutely.
different than if you don't have that date on the calendar. The other thing I also feel like I have a friend who I kind of started at the same time of, and he just did a competition, um, and he told me it's changed the normalcy or the relative stress of his day-to-day training because he's done the competition. So now every day he shows up has just changed immediately for him, like overnight, like how he shows up on the mat for a regular day, which I don't think until you raise the bar, like you cannot have that separation of what it looks like on a day-to-day basis. So it's like immediately those two things probably make you 100% better every time that you come into a class. So I'm pretty excited for that. I'm
Yeah.
also
So
nervous.
yeah, no, it's totally understandable, and I feel that again, people have different opinions about competition. I like that group that believes that everyone should try at least once to compete. After that, after the experience, decide is this something that I want to do it again? But just to go like, how do I deal with my nerves? Maybe do okay, because one of the things that really helped me through studying mental skills training and stuff, and I felt like I was dealing with some anxiety. The reality is the jujitsu is just a metaphor, and I started noticing how many things, many negative patterns are holding me back on the mat or in competition. They're holding me back in my personal and professional life. And when you look into it, they're highly correlated. They're just patterns. It just
Hmm.
happened that they're showing up on the mat, but it could
Yeah.
be in business. The fear of disappointing others is not just on the mat. It could be in personal life. The fear of making costly mistake in the mat is going to be the same that prevents people from taking that leap to start entrepreneurship. So for some people to say like, oh, you go there to pay $150 for a medal, like, man, there's so much more involved. It's not about that. Is there's so much involved. There's so much growth involved, but it comes down to how it's all about perception, how we look competition to
Yeah. Love it. Yeah. I'm leaving this more excited. I haven't really thought about it until you brought it up, but I'm even if I go 0 and 2 or whatever, 0 and 3 in this first competition I do, if I can deal with the 0 and 2 without being a reprehensible human being like I used to be, it's already a
it.
win. That's how I see
Yep.
it. And that's completely within my own control. So,
Absolutely. So, any final message that you want to give to people that want to know more about Push Press and about you guys' mission? Anything in mind?
I mean, you can go to pushpress.com. It is like it sounds. You can follow me on Instagram, Daniel San, like the Karate Kid guy. Other than that, man, I'm just excited to be part of this community and learn from like people like you who've been in it for so long and be able to chat with people who just have so much wisdom and understanding of jiu-jitsu. And like both of us have said this whole time, like if you get wise in jiu-jitsu, you're probably pretty wise in life. And so to me, it's like this next journey is actually perfect for the time of my life and the stage of my life because I'm surrounding myself with people who are just wise now. And that was never a goal of mine when I was in my 30s or whatnot. So I'm just excited in general to be around all of y'all. This is cool.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you so much, Dan. Appreciate your time, man. I know you're a very busy dude. So thank you so much for spending the time with us and everyone watching. I see you all soon. Thank you so much, Dan.
Well, thank you.